Well, I grew up in an atmosphere in my home where it just was always about family and friends, and the door was always open, and my mom was always cooking, and never small amounts, always gigantic amounts of food, and there was always something on the stove. We have Sunday dinner at my house every Sunday. That was always my day to try to be off from work. So we generally have a good amount of people over on Sundays. So chicken fried steak is my son's favorite, and anytime we go to the mainland and we're stop at a restaurant, he sees chicken fried steak on the menu, he's like, I'm having chicken fried steak. So he asked me to make it for him when he was younger, and I would, and I've sort of adapted it to things that he likes, and so it's a little different version of chicken fried steak, but he likes it. So now we're going to make the chicken fried steak, and I'm going to start off by making the gravy, which is a sweet corn and onion gravy. It's a little bit different than regular chicken fried steak. So we're going to start off by rendering bacon. Next, we're going to add the sweet onions. And the garlic. And this gets rendered down with the onions until it's golden brown and the onions are caramelized. This will take probably about 10 minutes. Okay, so we're getting close. We have caramelized onions, bacon, and garlic, and it smells awesome. Now we're going to get ready to make our gravy by adding flour. And this is how we're going to make our roux for our gravy. So we've added some flour, and we're going to stir that in with the bacon and the onions, and the fat from the bacon will be the fat that we're going to use to make the roux. So I actually want to cook the flour a little bit so that it tastes cooked and not raw flour flavor. Once the flour is incorporated, I'm going to use white wine to deglaze the pan. The white wine adds flavor, but it also helps me get all the little bits and pieces of the onion and the garlic and the bacon off the bottom of the pan. And I do want to scrape that off because that's flavor. And that adds to the color of the gravy and, you know, adds all that nice caramelized flavor to the gravy. Next, we're going to add our milk and our buttermilk. I've combined the two in here. It's ready to go. And I like to use buttermilk because it adds that little tang to the gravy that I'm looking for. And it also accentuates the buttermilk that will be on the chicken fried steak. So now I'm going to stir this a little bit and make sure I get all the onions and the bacon incorporated into the milk. And next I'm going to add the corn. This is fresh corn that I cut off the cob. And when you're making this, you really want to use fresh corn. That is going to make sure that your gravy tastes its best. Once the corn is added, you want to turn it down. And this is where the simmering begins. It needs to simmer for a minimum of 30 minutes and on a lower setting so that it's not boiling, but nice slow simmer. So now that we've put this aside to simmer, we're gonna start working on the breading and the pounding of the beef for the chicken fried steak. So I have top round here, and it's been cleaned and all the silver skin's been taken off. And chicken fried steak is actually made with beef, not chicken. And I have a buttermilk marinade that we're going to soak the beef in. The buttermilk marinade has Korean chili flakes inside, garlic, salt, pepper, and I use that to tenderize the beef as well. So first thing we're going to do is pound out the beef. So now we're going to marinate the beef in our buttermilk mixture. So I'm going to add this in there and a couple of the other ones that I have pounded already. And you want to let this sit for about 20 minutes. It really does not only add flavor, but it helps tenderize the beef as well. So the beef is been marinated for 20 minutes. And I have a seasoned flour here that has baking powder and flour in it. And the baking powder just kind of adds a little bit of lightness. And I want to make sure I get the beef nice and coated with the flour. I have hot oil in a cast iron pan. I like to use a cast iron pan because it conducts the heat more evenly, and especially with frying, whether it's fried chicken or anything that I want to make sure I have a consistent heat with, I use the cast iron. So we're getting close to turning over. You can see how it starts to get golden brown around the outside. That's a good indication that the steak is ready to flip over. And we have a nice golden brown crust. As you can see, it's nice and light and crispy. So this should be done in hot pan with hot oil, and it should only take a couple minutes on each side. Once it comes out of the oil, then I like to season it with just a little bit of salt. I actually have a little bit of olive oil potatoes down on the plate first. It's just boiled Yukon Gold potatoes, and instead of adding cream or butter, I use olive oil instead and make a mash out of that. So that's what's down here on the plate, and now we're going to put the chicken fried steak on there. So it's nice and crispy. And then we have our finished gravy, which is nice and creamy and thick. And there you have it, chicken fried steak with sweet corn and onion gravy for a simmer Sunday. So now we have to taste it and see how we did. It's crispy. Delicious.